The Concacaf W Gold Cup is officially underway as of today. The preliminary round happened over the weekend. The final three nations were able to qualify and book their ticket to get into this new rebranded W Gold Cup that, of course, Canadian soccer supporters are very excited about for a lot of reasons. Most notably, the curiosity of what life looks like after Christine Sinclair and Sophie Schmidt in what is an Olympic season, an Olympic year for this program, Oliver Platt. We know how much the Olympics means to this Canadian women's national team. We know how much it means to Canadians in general. They love the Olympics and they love the success that Canada had. They're trying to go in and defend their crown, but they do have this massive opportunity ahead of them a few months before the Paris Games gets underway. How do you think Bev Priestman is going to go in and try and approach how she sets up and manages this Gold Cup, knowing that a lot of the eggs are in the Olympic basket?
For me, forget about the Olympics. You should be focused on the Gold Cup right now. Like, I understand when we're at the She Believes Cup or whatever, okay, I don't really care about the outcome of that tournament. You can experiment, you can rotate the team, you can read a bit more into performances rather than results. That's all valid. And I understand that's part of building a team up through an Olympic cycle, through a World Cup cycle, whatever it is. But I think this should be seen now as a third major tournament for Canada. This is the Continental Championship. And I know in the past that it's maybe not always felt that way because it's just felt like a one-game tournament when Canada and the USA inevitably get to the final. But I think this region is strengthening. Mexico are getting stronger. We've obviously got the South American teams coming into this tournament in this particular version of it. You know, Brazil, powerhouse. Colombia, we saw at the World Cup, getting better. So there's some proper competition there now and not a guarantee that Canada will be in the final. So I'd like to see them go out and attack this, try and win this tournament. It's probably going to come down to beating the US at some point or another, which we know is a massive ask as always. But I'm not really here to say, well, you know, they gave it their best and they had a good go and it's good preparation and set up for the Olympics, but they lost in the semi-final. And like, no, we should have expectations here of really trying to compete and win this trophy.
Jordan, agree?
Yeah, I have to agree. And 2020, when the women had their gold medal, it seems like a while ago of a feel-good story. That's all I'm going to say. Like 4 years ago, it was amazing because it won bronze twice back-to-back, but finally getting that gold and monkey off the back, phenomenal. But I just want to see feel-good stories and football being played, goals being scored, and going after it. World Cup wasn't good enough. And I think the most feel-good story was maybe the Sinclair send-off. So I would just want to see a team going out there and giving it all that they have and going far in the tournament. And the Women's Gold Cup, it'd be phenomenal to see them go far. Maybe beat a Mexico, beat a Brazil, go to semi-final or final, potentially even win the tournament. But I'm just looking for a feel-good story for this women's team, and hopefully it happens in a few weeks' time.
Well, Wheels, we mentioned it. No Christine Sinclair. I think that's an obvious one that everyone will be keeping an eye on. And I think a lot of people have already dubbed Jessie Fleming the next captain. But based on how that leadership system, that structure used to exist, it was a lot of big voices. It was a lot of big names. Even if frontward or forward facing, they weren't always the loudest. It seems like this is going to be a case where a lot of different players need to step up, and almost lead this team together instead of having one name that represents it all.
And who are they? I don't think it was one name before, but Sinclair and Schmidt and Scott, like a lot of experienced players were around that team for a long time and had a lot to say. By the sounds of it, people that you talk to in and around that group had a lot of clout in terms of what happened both on and off the field. So some of those big names, including the biggest of them all, Christine Sinclair, is out. So I think it's a valid question. What does that leadership group look like? Who is going to step up to fill those gaps, to fill those voids, to help lead this team forward? And from the sounds of it, guys, there's going to be some more off-field distraction to deal with. I'm not sure if it's going to be throughout this tournament, if it's going to be days or weeks, but there's going to be more off-field distraction to deal with. So it's just, yeah, it's going to be a difficult one. It's going to be a telling one as well. Is this really a new version of this Canadian women's national team, or are they still going to be relying on the tools of the past that took them as far as they did? So we'll see what that looks like.
Oliver Platt.
Yeah, I mean, look, in terms of the off-field stuff, I really hope that this is a year for both national teams where they can concentrate on their football. And Wheels is shaking his head very pessimistically. we'll see what happens. But I think, to be honest, I think it would be to the benefit of these players as much as anything to really put that focus on the pitch rather than off it. I understand there are some things that they're still fighting for, and we respect that. But, at some point, your performances matter as well. And this is your career. You only get one that you're talking about. In terms of the on-pitch, I'm really looking at the attacking players in particular, and I'm interested in who steps up, who can have a big game in a big game, right? And that's been something even when Christine Sinclair was here that we've kind of asked about. I think there have been big improvements in that side of their game since the World Cup, in the way Bev Priestman has changed things tactically, and I think unlocked a few players as a result of that. Chloe Lacasse has been very good. Adriana Leon has been very good. Nichelle Prince looks really, really comfortable in that number 9 role. Now I think there's another level, though, to really test in a knockout game against a big team. Can someone take one of the few chances they get? Can someone produce a moment of magic in a tight game? I'm really interested to see who steps up to the plate, because beyond the players who have been playing well for Canada over the past few months, there's also some good players in good club form as well, who will be looking to have an impact too.
Quickly, Adam, before we move on.
Tournament, Jordan. What do you want to add?
Sorry, I just want to say down the spine as well. I think Kadisha Buchanan, I think players that have been there, now they are the vets. They need to step up. Ashley Lawrence as well. Totally agree with Ollie, but in terms of a spine of a team, players that have been there for a while, this is their moment to shine and to lead.
Well, with this tournament getting underway for Canada on Thursday against El Salvador, they are in Group C, and they will be expected to do some pretty big things offensively when you consider that they are joined there by El Salvador, Paraguay, and Costa Rica. And what makes
I just want to say this, Adam. Can I just say this, Adam?
Ahead.
Like, the one thing, besides results, some attacking football would be nice here. Like, Canada scored more than 2 goals once in their last 14 games, and that came against Australia 2 games ago. So, yeah, you want to see some goals, get some excitement from this team, don't we? I think that's what the public wants to see here, especially during the early stages of this competition.
And for the sake, you're right, Gareth, and for the sake of this particular tournament, what makes it so much more interesting is because there's 3 groups, how they're going to rank it is the top 2 teams from each group will advance, and they'll also include the 2 best 3rd place teams, but then they throw the groups away and they rank them based on points and then goal differential next. So if Canada's going to go against weaker competition based on their rankings, they are going to need to score with a vengeance to try and keep themselves away from some of those top nations as long as they possibly can. But there will be more on this competition as the week progresses. But Thursday, it all gets underway in Houston. More on that coming up in the coming days.